Haribol, namaste. Welcome to my Bhagavad Gita class. And so we'll chant, chant for 15 minutes and then speak on Bhagavad Gita chapter 5, text 16, which is a really nice verse. Nama Satara Sapta Shishimad Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajika Satara Sapta Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Asadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Nitai Goes World Mission ki jai. Navadvita ki jai. Shishi Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana ki jai. Vrindavanam ki jai. Mathuradam ki jai. Mayapodam ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Lord Nrsingadev ki jai. Prahlada Maharaj ki jai. Omagina Timarandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Statpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. For speaking, first offer my humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagatguru Siddhaswarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, and is very dear to Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities, are full of compassion upon them. Well, namaste. Thanks for watching. So my voice is a bit weak. So we're continuing with Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, and up to text 16. And we've been discussing the section that's about, well, who is the doer? And so we've been studying this for a number of weeks, as usual. And now on the fourth week of this, basically of this topic about, well, who is the doer? And there's three doers, kind of as options here. One is the pure spirit soul. You, me, the actual Jivatma, or the Atma in its pure state. And so we discussed that the Atma in its pure state is in one sense not the doer, as Krishna describes in he describes that a person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects, and that he is aloof from them. So this is, chapter 5, text 8 to 9. So the pure the spirit soul itself doesn't engage, is non-material. It's a non-material particle. It has nothing to do with the material, with this material body. Other than that, we're bound up within it. So how are we bound up within it? We're bound up within it as a result of our conditioned nature, as a result of our karma. And so our karma is anadi, or beginningless, from time immemorial. As a result of our karma, or our actions and our desires, we're then bound up within this material body. Sometimes this is described as impressions, our past impressions. The impressions meaning impressions upon the mind. So in other words, the material mind. So we're covered, the pure spirit soul is covered by his subtle material body and his gross physical body. And of course, everyone listening here, of course, know well the science of identity, right? That we're the pure spirit soul, and then we're covered by a subtle material body comprised of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And in a kind of deeper analysis of the subtle body, there's also the life airs and the subtle senses and the consciousness. And so this subtle body is conditioned. It has its conditioned nature, material nature. It's conditioned by the modes of nature. So in a later verse in this section that we're studying, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada translates it as, all this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Right? The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So this, the Sanskrit was swabhava. So this is material nature. And of course, material nature is composed of the three modes. So, and each of us has our own combination of modes of nature, of sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance. So these combine together. Every species of life is predominantly under a particular mode of material nature, but then individuals have their own particular combination of the modes of material nature. And so the modes are at play, our previous life karma is at play, our upbringing and so on, our conditioning is at play. So we come into life with a certain amount of conditioning, come into this material, into this particular body that we have with a certain amount of conditioning. And then as we live our life in this body, well, we get conditioned further. So this conditioning means, we're subject to conditions. So, if you have a female body, well, you have different conditions than a person in a male body. A person in a female body, has a womb and a menstrual cycle and, a particular kind of emotional makeup that's different than, generally speaking, different than a man's makeup. Of course, one discovers this much in a greater detail when one gets married. As you get to know a member of the opposite sex in greater detail, you start to understand, well, wow, just men and women are like different. Like there was this book written, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, or maybe it was the other way around. Women are from Venus and men are from Mars, I think is how it's said. And this book is like a very helpful book for people experiencing difficulties in their marriage. And they study this book, women are from Venus and men are from Mars, and they begin to understand, wow, we got a different emotional makeup here. So this is part of conditioning. Conditioning of the spirit soul is the conditioning of the subtle body. Like we have to act in a certain way. We get conditioned according to our parents influence us. Our brothers and sisters, our siblings influence us. Our friends influence us. The community in which we live in influences us. The society, the country we're within. We become conditioned to think, oh, I'm an American. I'm an Australian. I'm a Filipino. So we have this particular kind of conditioning. And then, according to our nationality, well, then we're only allowed to reside in certain places, or we have to get a passport. We're only allowed to reside there for a little while if we go out of that country. So this is a material condition attaching to us. But we have all kinds of conditioning, all kinds of desires. We're conditioned by these desires. We're conditioned by, TV shows or Netflix or movies or whatever, right? We take in influences that then condition us. We read the newspaper. We associate with certain kinds of people. So, like for example, in America right now, there's huge division. America's very divided, very divisive. Politics have become extremely divisive. You have the liberals who are, progressives. They call them progressives, the liberal progressives. What does this mean? This means that they're essentially, they're all up in arms if somebody says that, all this stuff about gender, binary or transsexual or whatever, right? They have a whole thing about it. I won't go into it. I won't go into it. But if you're living in the world today, then you know what I'm talking about. And then you have the other people on the other side are very conservative, and they think this is terrible. And they're associating with others who think the same way, and they're studying their religious literatures, the Bible, and interpreting it in their way. And so that they have their conditioning. And so you have it becomes polarized, very polarized. You have the spectrum. Normally you have the spectrum, and there used to be a lot more common ground where people could agree, right? And there's some things they couldn't agree on, but they were able to compromise and work together, right? So this was but now society's become so divisive and split, right? So now there's not so much in common. The circle of commonality is very small. And anyway, this is a result of conditioning. This is the bigger point, right? So the soul within the subtle body is conditioned. And it's the conditioned soul under the influence of material nature, prakriti, under our karma and our nature. So we each have our own nature, our swabhava, which was the Sanskrit term. This is our nature. For example, Bhagavad Gita here is the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And Arjuna's swabhava is that he's a kshatriya. His nature is as a warrior. He wants to, his very nature is to fight. And in fact, Krishna kind of clarifies this at the end of Bhagavad Gita, where he says in chapter 18, as he's coming to the conclusion, where he says to Arjuna, if you do not act, this is 1859, if you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, you will be falsely directed. by your nature. So prakritis, this is his nature, prakriti. You will have to be engaged in warfare. Right? This is Arjuna's nature. You know, if he goes somewhere, you know, he naturally wants to do what a kshatriya does, which is to protect. You know, if he goes somewhere and there'll be somebody being exploited or mistreated, then he'll naturally get himself involved in what's going on. You know, this is the nature of a warrior. He can't not act. Then Krishna further elucidates, under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction, but compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, Arjuna. So swabhava, this is the term swabhava. Swabhava jena kantaya. Right? This is Arjuna's nature. So Arjuna is a warrior, he has his particular nature. You know, a woman has her particular nature, a man has his particular nature, and then it gets divided more according to our particular varna, or occupational duty. But this varna is, you know, in India today is taken as caste. But this varna is much deeper than that. It's according to one's nature and one's activities. You know, so according to our inclinations. So, for example, you know, so sometimes an example that Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used to give quite frequently is that the son of a high court judge is not a high court judge. He has to become qualified, even though he may be the son of a high court judge. That doesn't make him qualified to act as a high court judge. He has to go through the process of becoming educated and then getting experience and so on to become a high court judge. But the tendency is more likely to be there, but not necessarily. There may be someone born in a worker's family who really aspires to be a judge and has the temperament and nature to be a judge. So like a nature of a judge is you have to be neutral, have neutrality, you have to have fine mental abilities to analyze situations. You need to have a good sense of whether someone is being honest or dishonest. That, you know, have to be able to assess a person's credibility. Have to have a good understanding of society, and anyway, so many different things or qualities. So these are like a lot of what I was describing there, intellectual, but also you know, intuition. So a person who has those tendencies and then acts on them, gets the education or whatever, and then acts on them, then they're of that particular varna, regardless of what varna they were born in. But anyway, so a person has their nature. Oftentimes, you know, we're born with it. We're born with our particular nature, like you see with children. They have their personality right from the start. So anyway, so this personality, this nature, is this subtle body surrounding the soul, right? You have the soul, like as Prabhupada says, right? You've got the soul, and then you've got the subtle body encompassing around it. And then you have the gross physical body that then molds around the subtle body. So we have a gross physical body that's just appropriate for our particular kind of desires. In other words, we have our desires and our subtle body, our mental body, creates our next gross physical body. So anyway, so the pure spirit soul is not actually the doer. We're like the passenger in the chariot. The intelligence is the driver, the mind is the reins, and the senses are the horses. And but what's tying us or binding us into this chariot. Because like the way in that analogy, it's kind of like, oh, well, why can't I just get out of the chariot? Yeah, I want out. But you're actually knotted there. It's almost like you're glued in a sense. But in the Bhagavad Gita, it's described as being knotted. And what's the knotting place? What's tying us? What's knotting us? So there's knotting that's tying us into the chariot. There's desires. And the strongest desire, of course, is the sex desire. And it's also the connection with others. In other words, we have our relationship with our wife and our children. And so we're like, it's these attachments. So like, in other words, we don't even want to get out of the chariot. It doesn't even enter our minds. We think we are the chariot. This is ahankara, false identity, right? We think we are the chariot. Like nobody, no one other than the devotees, the students of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, actually understand this. The disciples and students of the bona fide spiritual master have understanding of what our actual identity is. Everyone else thinks they're the body. They think they're the chariot. They don't understand that, no, you're pure spirit soul. This chariot you're in, this body you have, is temporary. It's real. It's not false. The impersonalist Mayavadis will say everything is false. But actually it's real, it's existing. I'm really talking to you right now. But it's temporary. So in that sense, it has no real substance. It's, here today, gone tomorrow, as the saying goes, Well, the analogy in the, in the Bhagavatam is like, it's like a bubble. You go to the beach, and the waves are breaking and foam forms, and the foam is comprised of lots and lots and lots of different bubbles. Somehow, through the action of the water, it kind of creates bubbles. And what's a bubble? A bubble is air inside a coating, a round coating of water. And for some, somebody with scientific knowledge would be able to explain better how this bubble is formed. But anyway, the bubble is there. It comes into existence. And it exists for a while, and then it bursts. And so that's like our life. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not upsetting anyone, how to describe your life or my life as just being a bubble. It's like a bubble on the shore of the ocean. Comes into existence for a little while, maintains, dwindles, gets weaker, and then bang, pop, it's gone. Now life is over. Now I'm off to the next one. What's next? What's next? Off we go. We get put into another womb, or we go perhaps to the hellish, the Yamadutas will take us, and we'll experience reaction, suffering, as a result of our past sinful activities. And this will condition us, we'll be conditioned by what happens in this to our subtle body when we're under the jurisdiction of Yamaraj. Further conditioning. And then we get placed into a particular womb. And so we're conditioned in that womb. And when we come out of the womb, we come out with a particular body, and we have a whole new set of conditions. So anyway, it's not the pure spirit soul is not the doer. The doer is the conditioned soul covered with his gross and subtle material bodies. But the doer is not, and there's a couple of verses here as we've been discussing, that say that the Supreme Lord is not the doer. In other words, Paramatma. Paramatma is within each body. Every body, And but the super soul is not the doer. The super soul, or the Supreme Lord, impels us to action in the sense that, because the super soul is there, therefore we're able to be active, and the super soul is directing us throughout our different forms of life and reminding us of what our desires are. As Krishna says in 15:15, that from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Savasya chaham hridi. Oh no, wrong verse. Anyway, sorry, I'm not remembering. Anyway, whatever, Jnana Smicha. Anyway, whatever. This knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness come from Krishna. So Krishna is impelling us, reminding us of what our particular desires were and are from our previous lives. But anyway, Krishna is not responsible for our actions. We are responsible for our actions. We have create our desire to be the enjoyer. When the soul, and when we talk about this, it sounds like there's a point in material time where this decision was made, but no, there isn't. It's eternal, anadi, without beginning. But when the soul desires to be the enjoyer, then Krishna's servant Maya Devi throws us into this material dimension and covers us. So Maya has two potencies, the throwing potency and the covering potency. And so this is as a result of our own material desires. So we create our own situation. So in last week's verse, text 14, Krishna said, "Nor does the Supreme Spirit assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge." So I was discussing earlier how tonight that people don't understand. They think they're the chariot. They're completely bewildered. They don't understand. They don't understand who they are. They don't understand what this material world is. And they don't understand who Krishna is, or who God is, who the Supreme Lord is. So within the Vedic view, there's what, and I think I discussed this last week, but there's sambandha, or relationship. Then there's abhidheya, the process. And then there's prayojana, the ultimate goal of life, or the goal of life. And so sambandha is about relationship. And so this means relationship, meaning understanding who I am and what my relationship is with others, with the Supreme Lord, and with this world, and what the heck I'm doing here in it. Right? This understanding. So I gave a course in Australia last time I was down there on Lord Chaitanya's, essentially Lord Chaitanya's teachings, his discussion with Srila Sanatana Goswami. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has analyzed this into what he called the Dasa Mula Tattva, Dasa 10 Mula, necklace, and Tattva, truths. So a necklace of 10 truths, which he describes in many of his books. Many of his works, he analyzes things in terms of the Dasa Mula Tattva, the necklace of 10 truths. And most of these truths, 6 of them, there's 10 altogether, 7 of them actually, 7 of them have to do with sambandha, or relationship. And but the conditioned soul, or the embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. So in other words, covered by Maya Devi. We don't see things as they are. We don't understand who I am. We don't understand who Krishna is. And we don't understand the purpose of this material world, or even what this material world is. We don't understand this. So we're bewildered, being illusioned. We don't see things as they are, and we're bewildered by it. Bewildered in the sense, some people sometimes are just like, wow, they're just bewildered. They don't understand anything. But the reality is that all of us are bewildered. We're not seeing things as they are. We're not seeing things in reality. Right? We're seeing, I'm sitting on this chair, right? This lounge chair. I had to put a seat cover over because it's all so old and ratty. Right? But anyway, we're not see it as it is. Well, this is actually a good analogy, right? This seat here is actually all kind of, I don't know, I probably don't want to describe it too much. You'll wonder why I'm sitting on it. But anyway, look, it's pretty ratty. So, one day my wife, Radhi Sharma's like, oh, I've had enough of this. I want to get some seat covers. And it's like, oh, okay. All right, that's a good idea. Anyway, we had to go through a few adventures to get seat covers that fitted, because this seat's pretty big. My mantra came around here the other night. He's making a video about two-string. He wanted to interview me, and I said, oh, well, this is where I usually sit. And he says, oh, no, it's like a throne. So, okay, well, actually, it's just a crappy old lounge chair. But anyway, so so you get these covers, right? You can see it here. It's green, right? So there's this green cover. You stretch it out and you cover it, and all of a sudden it makes the chair look completely different. It's got a whole different vibe about it. Different color, looks clean, looks good, right? But underneath, in reality, it's not like that. If you remove the cover, and it's like, it's pretty gross. Now, of course, this is the nature of this world, right? The nature of bodies. Bodies are like, so you see a beautiful woman. You think, wow, she's so beautiful. Look at her beautiful face and her beautiful body and her beautiful breasts and so on. But it's like, there's the saying, of course, beauty is skin deep. As soon as you go within, or you just cut or scratch the body, all of a sudden it's like, there's the blood and flesh and bile and all kinds of disgusting substances within the body. Stool, urine, hair. So the hair looks nice while it's attached to the body, but as soon as it comes apart, it's like, women and men have to wear hair nets when they work in a food service operation in case their hair falls out. So we're bewildered. We're not seeing things as they are. We're seeing like the nice external packaging. It's a bit like you buy something at the supermarket. It's got this really nice looking packaging, or a toy. Kid really wants the toy because the toy, it comes in this really cool box, and it's all the package. It's nice packaging. The colors are really attractive. So I really want that because it looks so good. But then when I get the toy, and then it just breaks straight away. It's crappy. It doesn't work properly. It's cheap and nasty, as the saying goes. Or so the beautiful woman inside, just underneath the skin is like, oh my God, you do not want to see it. It's bones, and you just don't want to know about it. Right? But, so we're bewildered. We're seeing things as they aren't. So anyway, so this brings us to tonight's verse, of course, where Krishna says, Jnanena tu tada jnanam yesham nashita matmanaha Tesha maditya vajganam prakashayati tatparam jnanena tu tada jnanam yesham nashita mat manaha. Tesha maditya vajganam prakashayati tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So I'm going to run out of time, so I won't go through the Sanskrit word for word. I was going to go through actually Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's purport, which is, just a really nice purport, so to just, when, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So what's, in a sense, this section of the 5th chapter, it's expanding upon what was described towards the end of the 4th chapter. The 4th chapter, of course, is called Transcendental Knowledge. And, towards the end of the 4th chapter, Krishna starts describing different processes for attaining knowledge. And then in text 34, Krishna then says that one should approach a bona fide spiritual master or a jnaninas, a seer of the truth. And he described tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tapadashinaha. So jnaninas tapadashinaha. The spiritual masters has seen the truth. Jnaninas, the wise person, the spiritual master. Tattva, the truth, spiritual truth. Dashinaha, the seer. So we approach, Krishna says, approach the bona fide spiritual master in a mood of submission. Pranipatena, mood of surrender and surrender and submission. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprajnena, inquiry. So submissive inquiry, and sevaya, a mood of service. So I gave many, when we were studying chapter 4, I gave, I think maybe it was like 3 classes on this verse, because it's such a key verse in the Bhagavad Gita. But so if we want to know the truth, then you approach a Jnaninas Tapadashinaha, a wise person, spiritual master, who has seen the truth. And we approach in a mood of submission, surrender, inquiry, wanting to know the truth, not frivolous inquiry, but actually wanting to know the truth, and with a service attitude. In other words, appreciation for what I'm receiving and wanting to reciprocate by rendering service. And so what do we receive? Upadekshanti te jnanam. Upadekshanti will initiate te jnanam, you, into jnanam, knowledge. So everything I've been describing is this knowledge, not that I'm describing, that Krishna is describing in Bhagavad Gita, that our beloved spiritual master Srila Prabhupada is describing, that in his science of identity, that you are spiritual in essence, that you're a non-material particle of life, a soul, covered by a subtle material body and a gross physical body. But you are not, you're the dominated part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. In other words, you are not the Supreme Lord. You are not Krishna. As Lord Chaitanya teaches, achincha beta beta tapa. So beta beta, this means difference, and non-difference. In other words, we're the same in quality, but we're not the same in quantity. So we are coming from God. We are part and parcel of God, but we are not God. We're not God, the Supreme Person. We are God, the Jivatma, in that sense. I don't even like to say that because we never want to talk about being God, but we are a part of God. You're inseparable from God. You are coming from God, just like the analogy. Like this is Lord Chaitanya clarified this so well in his Achincha Beta Beta Tapa. This simultaneously one yet distinct, inconceivably. This is Achincha, inconceivable. So inconceivable oneness yet distinction. So and the analogy that he gives once when he in his conversation with Srila Sanatana Goswami is then the distinction between sunshine and the sun. So you can't, the sunshine, you can't separate it from the sun. It's coming from the sun. It's part of the sun. But it's not the sun planet. Right? So here in this verse, it's a very nice analogy. Adityavat, so like the rising sun, or like the sun. Right? So, in this verse, it's like our ignorance, right? Our knowledge, which is, our knowledge. In other words, this knowledge of who we are, that it's there within us, but it's covered. Right? So we're talking about the subtle body. In other words, the material mind is covering the pure spirit soul. So pure spiritual knowledge is innate within us. A Satchidananda Vigraha, right? So this is the form of Brahma Samhita 5.1. Satchidananda Vigraha, this is the nature of Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, and he has a form, Vigraha, which is Satchidananda Vigraha. Sat, eternality, Chit, cognizance or knowledge, and Ananda, blissfulness. So we, similarly, are, as spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, we also have a form that is Satchidananda Vigraha. So Vigraha is the form. So Sat, eternality, Chit, knowledge, and Ananda, blissfulness. But it's covered by ignorance, right? And so the analogy that Krishna is giving here, which is a wonderful analogy, is that when we're covered by ignorance, we're in darkness. We can't see anything, we don't understand anything, we don't see anything, we think things are, we just are ignorant. We don't understand anything. We have no, we have no understanding of this, of who I am, who God is, and what this material world is. Right? So we're in complete darkness and ignorance. But then Krishna is saying in this verse that we become enlightened with the knowledge. So this transcendental knowledge that we receive from our spiritual master destroys ignorance. So as our spiritual master points out the truth to us, so then we hear and understand the truth. And this destroys our ignorance. It's like the bubble is burst. It's like popping the bubble, popping the illusion. Oh, this, you mean that's what it's really like, And then this knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So in other words, we're in darkness. And then the sun comes, maker of the day. When the sun, the maker of day, comes, then all of a sudden we can see. While I chanting my japa in the morning, it's dark, and then it goes from darkness to light. Suddenly I can see everything. So this is like the receiving the transcendental knowledge from the Vedic literatures, from Bhagavad Gita, from our spiritual master, from Srila Prabhupada. Then we become enlightened, ignorance is destroyed, and we can see everything as it is. So next week's verse, we move on a little bit. Krishna speaks a little bit more about the nature of this knowledge. And so we'll talk about that next week. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much. Haribol.